He found a cave filled with gold. But before sunrise, his best friend would betray him. And by sunrise, his sister was gone. His friend had betrayed him, and the village chief wanted him dead. But the mountain knew the truth.
A poor young man stumbled on a cave full of gold, deep inside a mountain his village had feared for generations. By sunrise the next morning, his closest friend had betrayed him. His little sister had been sold by strangers, and the village chief had called for his head. What followed was a night of fire, flood, and a single choice that decided who walked out alive and who stayed inside the mountain forever. If you enjoy stories where one secret tears a whole community apart, drop a like and tap subscribe right now. New stories like this go up every week, and your support is what keeps them coming. The village of Ekenne sat at the foot of the Black Mountain, like a child curled at the knee of a sleeping giant. 3 generations had lived there, and 3 generations had been told the same rule. Do not climb the north face. Do not touch the stones near the old water line. Do not enter the cave that breathes at night. Ekenne was not a wealthy place. The soil was thin, the rains were short, and the market town was a full day's walk away. Men went there to sell palm oil. Women went there to buy salt. Most families had only one good cloth, one good pair of sandals, and one good pot. Children went to school barefoot because shoes cost more than lessons. Into this thin life was born a boy named Obinna. He had no father by the time he could remember. His mother had died giving birth to his sister Ekenne, and his uncle Ekenne had taken both children in, even though he had 6 of his own. Obinna grew up tall and quiet, with the kind of hands that looked like they were made for lifting heavy things, and the kind of eyes that noticed things other people missed. He was not a leader. He was not the loudest voice in the market square. But people listened to him when he spoke, because he spoke slowly and never wasted a sentence. His best friend from childhood was a boy called Chima. Where Obinna was quiet, Chima was loud. Where Obinna saved his coins in a small clay jar under the bed, Chima spent his coins at the first stall that caught his eye. Where Obinna counted his meals, Chima ate until his stomach hurt and wondered the next morning why he felt so tired. They had been friends since they were 7 years old, when Chima had jumped into the river to save Obinna from a current that would have taken him downstream. Obinna had never forgotten that. He often said that there were 2 kinds of wealth in life, the kind you could count and the kind you could not. Chima, he believed, was the second kind. Obinna's sister Ekenne was 15. She had her mother's face, which the village women said was a dangerous inheritance, because beauty in a poor place was not a gift. It was a tax. Men from richer towns circled poor villages the way hawks circled hen houses. And once they found something pretty, they offered the family enough money to build a new roof or buy a second pair of shoes. Mothers knew exactly what that offer really meant. Fathers sometimes hid their daughters when the hawkers came. Obinna swore 3 things to himself before he turned 20. He would protect Ekenne from that fate. He would not let his uncle Ekenne die poor. He would never set foot on the north face of the Black Mountain, no matter what anyone said about the gold that lay hidden inside. The trouble began on a Tuesday morning in the dry season. Obinna was walking along the foot of the mountain looking for his uncle's lost goat. The goat had a brown ear and a habit of falling asleep under rock ledges. Obinna had wandered far from the village path, farther than he usually went, when he saw an old man sitting on a stone near the trees. The man was wrapped in cloth that had faded from red to a dusty pink. He was carving something into a piece of wood with a small knife. And beside him sat a small drum and a walking staff made from a single piece of black ironwood. "Good morning, Father," Obinna said. "Are you lost?" The old man looked up. "No, son. I am exactly where I was sent to be. You should not be here, Obinna said softly. The village elders say this part of the mountain is not safe. And what do the elders say is not safe about it? They say there is a cave there. They say it breathes at night. They say anyone who enters comes back changed. The old man smiled. Do you believe them? I believe something happened here once. I do not know what it was. Something did happen, son. A long time ago, before your grandfather had a beard, before your great-grandfather was born. A stranger came to this mountain carrying a heavy bag. He brought it from a place you and I will never see. When he reached the north face, he placed the bag inside a cave, sealed the entrance with 3 stones, and walked away. He died a year later in his own village. Nobody ever came back for what he had hidden. Obinna felt his mouth go dry. What was inside the bag? The kind of wealth that makes kings and ruins villages. Gold. Enough gold to feed Ekenne for 10 harvests. Enough gold to build a school. Enough gold to put shoes on every child and a roof on every hut. And enough gold to destroy every good thing that is inside the people who find it. Why are you telling me this? Because I will be dead before the rain returns, and I have no son of my own. I watched you walk across the river to your uncle's house last night. I watched you give your sister the larger portion of your meal. I watched you refuse to laugh at a crippled boy who fell at the market. Those things are not gold, son, but they are the same metal. Obinna was quiet for a long time. How do I find the cave? Follow the dry stream until it bends twice. Then count the stones from the bend to the lowest cliff. You will see 3 stones stacked in a way that no wind would have placed. Move them in this order: bottom first, middle second, top last. Walk in with no torch. If your eyes are clean, you will see the gold on your own. If they are not clean, you will see only your own sins. And if I take it, you will become 3 people. The one you were, the one you appear to be, and the one you will become in the dark when no one is watching. The old man stood up, took his drum, his staff, and his knife, and walked into the trees without turning back. When Obinna blinked, the man was gone. There was no sound in the forest. There was no path. Only the faint smell of a fire that had burned long ago, and the pale yellow leaf that had fallen from a tree. Obinna had never seen before. He did not go to the cave that day. He carried the secret home like a hot coal in his closed fists, and he sat on the small wooden bench outside his uncle's compound and watched the sunset turn the top of the black mountain into a strip of copper. 3 days later, in the evening, after his uncle had finished the evening prayer, Obinna told Chima. He told him everything. He told him about the 3 stones. He told him about the order in which to move them. He told him about the old man's warning. He did not mention the gold only because he thought the old man had not mentioned the gold either. Chima's eyes grew wide. Gold! Listen to me, brother. I am listening, the old man said. The cave ruins. Whoever enters with the wrong heart. He said, clean eyes see gold. Unclean eyes see sins. I am telling you because you saved my life when we were children. If I go, you must be the one I trust to pull me back if my heart is dirty. Obinna, you speak as if gold is poison. Gold is not poison. The love of gold is the poison. The love of more gold is the poison. The forgetting of everything else because of gold is the poison. Chima stared at his friend with a strange look that Obinna had never seen on his face before. I will go with you. Not for the gold. For you. That was a true sentence, spoken from a half-true mouth. Chima did love Obinna. Chima did want to protect him. But something else had also woken up inside Chima the moment he heard the word gold. A door had opened in his mind, and through that door he saw his mother's hut with a tin roof. His 3 younger sisters in proper school uniforms. A pair of red shoes for his brother Chidiabere, and a wooden door with a real lock instead of the rope they used to tie it shut at night. 2 weeks later, the 2 friends prepared. They went at the end of the dry season when the moon was smallest. They carried no torches. They carried 1 small leather bag each, 2 sips of water, and a short blade to cut through thorns. Obinna wore his oldest wrapper, the one with the small tear at the side, because he had decided that he would not enter the cave with his best cloth. Chima wore the only shirt he owned. They walked the dry stream bed in silence. Twice the stream bent. After the second bend, the stones grew darker. They counted the stones from the bend to the lowest cliff. 22. The 23rd stone was stacked oddly. Obinna knelt down. He moved the bottom stone first, then the middle, then the top. A breath of cold air came out of the dark, like an exhaled sigh. There was a low sound inside, almost like the rumble of distant thunder that never quite arrives. Obinna turned to Chima. If you feel your heart pull you in the wrong direction, pull me back. Promise me. I promise, Chima said. They stepped in. For Obinna, the cave lit itself, not with fire, not with daylight. It was something different. A soft silver glow rose from the walls, and the walls opened into a chamber that stretched far beyond the reach of any torch. The floor was dark stone, smooth as river water. In the middle of the chamber sat a leather bag, brown with age, tied with a rope that looked like it had been waiting 100 years to be untied. Beside the bag, 6 bars of gold stood on a flat rock, glowing as if the inside of the metal was a living sun. Beyond the bars, deeper into the chamber, were 3 more bags, untouched, sealed, silent. For Chima, the chamber was almost the same. The glow came up, the gold appeared just as bright, but beside the gold he also saw, very faintly, a shape. Not a person, a shadow. The shadow of himself holding a knife over his friend. He blinked. The shadow was gone. He blinked again. It stood where Obinna was standing now. If my eyes are clean, I should see only the gold, Obinna whispered. I see the gold. I see the gold too, Chima whispered. And I see something else. What? Nothing. Heat from my eyes. That is all. Obinna reached for the leather bag. The rope untied itself as soon as his fingers touched the knot. Inside the bag was full of small gold pieces the size of seeds, hundreds of them, some larger, some smaller, all shining with the same steady fire. He poured a careful amount into his own bag. Then he turned to Chima. Your bag. Take as much as your 2 fists can hold, no more. The old man said 3 stones for a reason. There is a price we cannot see yet. Chima knelt, filled his bag, and tied it shut. His hands trembled. Not from fear, from something else. from hunger. They walked out of the cave the way they had walked in. They replaced the stones in the same order. Top first, middle second, bottom last. The breath of cold air disappeared. The cave went silent again. By the time they reached the village path, the moon was rising on the other side of the mountain, and their shadows were the only witnesses. 3 weeks later, the two young men were sitting on the bench outside Obinna's compound, drinking palm wine in small cups. Their lives had changed, but not in ways the village could see. Obinna had quietly replaced the old roof of his uncle's compound with new zinc sheets. He had bought sandals for Adeze, paid her school fees for the next 2 years, and slipped a small folded paper into the hands of 2 widows whose children had no shoes. He did not drink palm wine with the paper money. He did not gamble. He did not buy a bicycle. He did not dress in anything new. Chima was different. He bought a red shirt, a new pair of trousers, and a pair of leather shoes that clicked when he walked. He took his mother a sack of rice that week. The next week, he took her a second sack. He took his brother Chidiabere to the market and bought him a school bag and a proper uniform. He showed his friends the bar of soap he now used to wash in the morning, and the small mirror in which he fixed his hair. He did not lie about where the money came from. He did not tell the truth either. He let people wonder. "What did you do with yours?" Chima asked one afternoon. "Not enough to be noticed, not too little to be useless." "You are too careful, brother. Gold is for using. Gold sitting in a bag is the same as stone sitting in a pile." "Chima, listen to me. The old man said the stranger who put the gold there died a year later. He never came back. There is a price. We do not know what it is yet. Then let us take more. If the price is death, we die with full bags instead of empty ones." "No. Why not?" "Because my sister still needs her school fees next year. Because my uncle still needs his medicine. Because the 2 widows still need shoes for their children. Because there is a difference between wealth and madness, and you are standing on the line." Chima laughed. "You talk like the elders. You are 22 years old, and you already sound 70. Obinna smiled. "Listen to me as your brother, not as an elder. Promise me one thing. We will not go back to the cave this season. Next season we will talk again. Until then, the bags stay hidden and we live quietly." Chima agreed, but his eyes said something different. Things moved fast after that. Chima began visiting the village chief with small gifts. He brought palm oil one week, kola nut the next, and once he quietly paid for the roof of the chief's goat house. Within 2 months, Chima had become the chief's favorite young man. He was invited to eat at the chief's table. He was asked to sit on the council of elders when a final decision was needed. He was given a small parcel of land near the river and was celebrated at the next meeting of the men. Obinna watched all of this from a distance. He did not attend the chief's meetings. He did not bring gifts. He worked in the fields, helped the widows with their farm, and walked his sister to school in the morning. People respected him, but people trusted Chima. That was a different word, and Obinna felt it like a stone rolling slowly into a hole. One evening, while the rains were beginning, Chima came to his friend in a hurry. His eyes were not the eyes that had laughed and joked with Obinna 10 years earlier. They were the eyes of a man running from something inside his own head. "Obinna, I went back to the cave." Obinna felt the blood leave his face. Alone? Yes, Chima. I had no choice. My mother needed new roof beams. The chief's daughter was sick, and her father had no money for medicine. If I had not taken more, what kind of man would I be? A man still alive, Obinna said. Listen to me, brother. I saw the shadow again. It stood where you would have stood if you had been with me. It held a knife. It was not me. I swear it was not me. Tell me what you did when you saw it. I closed my eyes. I took 1 bar of gold, and I walked out. Just one. Just one. And then I heard laughter from inside the cave as I was leaving. Not human laughter. A sound like stones rolling against each other. Obinna closed his eyes. We need to bury that bar. We need to never speak of the cave again. We need to lie low for a year. I cannot lie low, Obinna. I have promised things. I have shown too much. The chief's daughter is marrying a man from the town next month. The bride price is too high for her father. I promised him money. You promised him gold. You do not have the right to promise. That is the same thing in this village. A promise is a promise. Chima, listen carefully to me now. The shadow you saw in the cave is not outside. It is inside you. It is the part of you that has begun to believe that the gold is yours, and that the people around you exist only to receive what the gold can buy. If you do not put the bar back, the shadow will grow. It will not stay in the cave. It will move into your house, into your bed, into your handshake. Chima stared at his friend. Then he smiled the wrong smile. You talk too much, he said. I came to tell you because I trust you. But what you are saying is that I should not help anyone. That I should let the chief's daughter die of fever so that I can sleep at night with clean eyes. I am saying you should not help people with stolen sunlight. I am saying the moon is jealous of the sun. She lets people see her because the sun is not looking. If the sun turns around, the moon disappears. The cave is the moon. You are the moon right now. The sun will turn around. Chima stood up. I am not the moon. I am a man who has found a door and opened it. The door was placed there for someone. Maybe it was placed there for me. It was the first truly ugly sentence Obinna had ever heard his friend say, and it stayed in his head like a splinter that could not be pulled out. 2 weeks later, on the night before the chief's daughter's wedding, Chima came to Obinna's compound with 3 men from the village. One of them was the chief's eldest son. Another was the man who tuned the village drums. The third was Uncle Ekenne. Obinna opened the door. His uncle's eyes were full of something Obinna had not seen in him before. Shame. Sit down, Uncle Ekenne said. Obinna sat. Chima has told us about the cave. Obinna did not look at Chima. He has also told us that you knew about it before he did. He says you kept it from the village. He says you went the first time. He says you came back with gold and kept it for yourself. He came back with me, Uncle. He says you took more gold than he did. He says you have hidden it and used it secretly. He says you have enough to make everyone in this village comfortable for 10 years. He says you refuse to share. Obinna looked at his friend. Is this true, Chima? Chima did not answer. For a moment, Obinna saw the shadow that Chima had described. It stood behind Chima. It was a thin man with no face, holding a bag that looked like the bag they had carried out of the cave. The shadow's hands were open, and in each palm was a small gold piece. The shadow was not smiling. The shadow was hungry. Uncle Obinna said calmly, "I went into the cave with Chima. I did not take more than he did. I have helped our family quietly. I have paid school fees. I have bought sandals. I have replaced my uncle's roof. I have not hidden anything that belongs to this village." "Then the gold in the cave belongs to the village. It belongs to no one. It belonged to a stranger who put it there and died. We are the third set of people to find it. I do not know what happened to the first two sets. I do not want to find out by becoming the third." "Where is your bag?" the chief's son asked. Obinna looked at his uncle. Uncle Emeka looked down. "It is in the compound behind the yam barn. The third wooden plank on the left. Tap it twice and it will come loose. Inside the plank there is a small clay jar. Inside the jar is my gold." Chima turned pale. "You hid it here?" "Yes." "But I told them you kept it elsewhere. Chima, why did you come to my compound with these men on the night before the chief's daughter's wedding?" "Nothing. I came to bring them to the truth. The truth is inside the barn. Take it. Take everything. Let the chief's son weigh it himself. Let Uncle Emeka count it himself. Let both of them compare it with what Chima holds in his own bag." The chief's son stood up. "Show us." Obinna led them to the barn. He tapped the third wooden plank twice. The plank came loose. Inside was a small clay jar sealed with wax. He broke the seal, opened the jar, and poured a small pile of gold pieces onto the floor. About 50 pieces, the same size, the same color, the same strange glow. The chief's son looked at the pile. He looked at Uncle Emeka. He looked at Chima. "Your friend told us you had enough gold to fill this barn," the chief's son said. "I have 50 pieces. I told you the truth. Whatever Chima told you was his to tell. He is my friend. I will not speak against him." Chima's face was now the color of dry clay at noon. They went to Chima's hut the next morning before the sun came up. The chief's son brought the same men. Behind the mat at the foot of Chima's bed, inside a hollowed-out wooden block, they found a single bar of gold wrapped in green cloth. Hidden under the floor in his mother's kitchen, wrapped in banana leaves and buried in a sack of dried pepper, they found 3 more bars. They also found the bride price money that Chima had promised the chief. It was not his money. He had taken it from the saving circle of the village women, the kind of circle where mothers pooled what they could to send their daughters to school or to feed families during sickness. The chief's son counted the money. The village women wailed. Chima did not come out of his hut that morning. He sent his younger sister to the door with a message. He said his friend had betrayed him. He said Obinna had hidden more gold and only pretended to bring out a small jar. He said Obinna had sent the chief's son to his hut to trap him. He said his mother, his sisters, and his brother would die of shame because of one quiet man who smiled through his teeth. The village split into 2 halves that week. Half of the people believed Chima because he had been generous so loudly. Half of the people believed Obinna because he had been quiet for so long. The elders met. The council met. The chief called for a village gathering by the big silk cotton tree near the stream. Obinna knew what was about to happen. The village had a law for one kind of theft and another kind of silence. Anyone who kept village wealth to himself, even quietly, even for good reasons, was called a hoarder. Hoarders were not punished by beating, they were punished by isolation. Their families were not allowed to share food with the rest of the village. Their names were removed from the roll of meetings. Their children could not attend school under the village's name. That was a slow death. It was the kind of death that turned people into ghosts inside their own home. Uncle Emeka sat Obinna down 2 days before the gathering. "I am old," he said. "My wife is old. Adeze is young. If the village decides you have hidden more than you say, none of us will be able to step outside without hearing our names spat at us like bitter water. There is a man at the market town who works as a driver for the chief of the next district. He came to ask about Adeze last month. He offered 3 bags of rice, a tin roof, and a new wrapper for her mother, if she would come and live in his house as his second wife. Adeze is 15, Obinna. If the village turns against us, that man becomes the only offer on the table." Obinna stared at his uncle. "You will not sell her." "I will not. I am only telling you the shape of the world we are standing in. If the village stops standing with us, we will be standing alone." "I will go to the gathering," Obinna said. "I will speak. I will tell them the truth. I will tell them that I kept my gold because I believed the cave was a trap. I will tell them that I spent my share on small things. I will tell them that Chima has bars of gold hidden under his mother's kitchen. I will tell them about the bride price money." "You will speak against your friend." "I will speak for my sister." The night before the gathering, Obinna went to the cave by himself. He moved the 3 stones in the proper order and walked in. This time, the glow was dimmer. The chamber felt smaller. The leather bag was still there, but the gold inside had changed. It was the same color, the same weight, but it looked hazy, as if fog had been poured into each piece. He knelt down and reached for the closest bag. The moment his fingers touched the rope, he heard a voice that was not coming from any direction he could name. "You cannot take what you will not carry," the voice said. "I am not here to take," Obinna said. "I am here to ask." "Ask. How do I save my sister without breaking my friend?" "There is no path that does not break something. Tell me the right thing to do." "You already know the right thing. You are only afraid that doing the right thing will cost you everything. If I speak the truth at the gathering tomorrow, the village will shame Chima. The village will shame his mother. The village will shame his sisters. His name will be torn like old cloth. If you stay silent, one innocent girl will be sold to a stranger who lives in a tin house and smells of palm wine. The choice is yours. The price is yours. How do I know which is the right price? A right price is one that the person making it is willing to pay himself. Are you willing to lose everything for your sister? Yes. Are you willing to lose your friend? A long silence. Yes. Then walk into the morning and tell the truth, without pride, without pity, and without revenge. Speak the way you would speak if your mother were alive and sitting in the circle of women watching you. The voice was gone. The gold pieces in the bag were shining again. Obinna took none of them. He walked out of the cave. The stones went back into their places. The next morning, the whole village gathered under the silk cotton tree. The chief spoke first. He spoke of village unity and of wealth that belongs to all. Chima spoke second. He spoke of betrayal and of a friend who had hidden gold under his bed while pretending to be poor. Obinna spoke third. He did not accuse his friend. He did not raise his voice. He stood in the middle of the circle and spoke as if he were reading from a small piece of paper he could not actually see. My father told me one thing before he died. He said the village does not break because of thieves. The village breaks because of silent men who see the truth and pretend not to see it. I went into the cave with Chima. The old man who told us about the cave said we would see something. He said our eyes would show us the truth about ourselves. Chima saw a shadow. I saw only the gold. I have spent my share on our family. I have not hidden anything from this village. Let the chief's son count my jar again in front of the circle. Let him count Chima's bars again in front of the circle. Let him count the bride price money that was taken from the savings circle. Let him weigh it. Let him write it down. Let the village see the numbers. The chief's son stood up immediately. He had not expected Obinna to invite the weighings again. He had expected a quiet surrender, an apology, a slow fading. He walked to the circle anyway because the village was watching. The numbers came out as Obinna had said. 50 pieces in the jar, 3 bars in the kitchen, 1 bar behind the mat. The bride price money from the savings circle was missing its full amount. 3 women stood and confirmed the missing coins. 2 of them were widows. The chief spoke again. He asked Chima to respond. Chima stood up. For the first time in weeks, Obinna saw the shadow again. It stood behind his friend. It was taller now. Its hands were full of small gold pieces that it was putting into the mouths of the women around him. 1 piece at a time, as if it were feeding them in a way that was slowly silencing them. Chima looked at Obinna. I am not silent because of gold, Obinna. I am silent because of fear. The fear of growing old in this village with nothing to show for my life. The fear of standing at my mother's grave with empty hands. The fear of watching my brother drop out of school because I could not pay. You have a quiet heart. I do not. You can carry small things and count them as wealth. I cannot. Neither of us is wrong, Chima. But the bride price money is not ours to take. The savings of widows is not ours to spend. Then what is left for me? The truth. The truth is always left for you. Chima's eyes filled with something. Not tears exactly, something heavier. He turned to the chief. I took the bride price from the savings circle. I have hidden it in 2 places. I will return every coin before sunset. The chief nodded slowly. The village was quiet. Then Chima turned again. I also went back to the cave alone. I took 1 bar of gold without telling him. The shadow I saw there was not outside the cave. It was inside me. I have been acting on behalf of that shadow for weeks. The village was even quieter. Obinna stepped forward. If there is a price to pay for what we did, let my friend pay it with dignity. Let the village receive back what was taken. Let him continue to live in this place where he was born. Let his mother receive her son with open arms. The chief said, The village has spoken. We will not destroy Chima. We will not destroy Obinna. We will enter the cave together as a village. Whatever is inside will be carried out by 10 pairs of hands, not by 2. The cave refused them. 3 elders went first. They moved the stones in the order Obinna had taught them. They stepped in. They did not see gold. They saw only a thin gray fog. The walls had no glow anymore. The floor was wet. The leather bag was empty. The 6 bars were gone. The 3 bags that Obinna had never touched were gone. Even the dust in the corner looked like it had been wiped clean. Whatever gold had been in the chamber of the mountain, it was no longer there for any eye to see. The old man who had warned Obinna was nowhere. The yellow leaf that had fallen outside the cave was no longer under the trees. The path that had led to the second bend of the stream had filled with thorns as thick as fingers. When the elders came out, one of them, the oldest man in the village, said softly, "The cave has decided. There is no gold left for our eyes." A few of the villagers tried again that night. They moved the stones. They walked in. They saw nothing inside. Some saw fog. Some saw only the reflections of their own faces. Some saw the cave as it actually was, with its small dirt floor, its wet walls, and its ceiling that dripped with brown water. The chamber was not bigger than a small hut. The deep walls had been only shadow playing with their eyes. For some, the chamber was still full of gold. The chief's son was one of them. Chima was one of them. Obinna, who had gone inside before, saw only the small dark cave with the wet floor. "Why does he still see gold?" the chief's son whispered. "Because his eyes are not yet clean," the old elder said. Obinna walked out of the mountain that afternoon and sat by the stream for an hour. He did not cry. He did not laugh. He thought about how the cave had given them exactly as much as they could carry without turning them into something else. He thought about the old man who had planted the story. He thought about the weight of a friend who was still a friend even after betrayal, even after a shadow had grown taller behind him, even after the gold had tried to take the shape of a man. When he got home, his uncle was sitting outside the compound with the village chief. Adaeze was inside the hut grinding pepper. Uncle Emeka stood when he saw Obinna. His eyes were wet. "Obinna," he said. "The man I told you about, the driver who wanted Adaeze. He came this morning. He brought his uncle with him. They offered 4 bags of rice, a tin roof, 2 new wrappers, and a job in his shop for your uncle's second son. I told them to wait outside." "What did you tell them?" Obinna asked. "I told them Adaeze is not for sale at any price." The chief was sitting on a small wooden stool. He had not spoken yet. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and tight. "Obinna, you saved the village from one kind of shame. The shame of a young man who stole from his own people. But the cave has already taken the gold. The village has nothing to show for the trouble of the last 2 months. Some people are angry. Some people are saying that if you and Chima had never gone to the cave, none of this would have happened. They are saying that the cave is now awake, and a wise village should pour palm oil on its mouth to put it to sleep. Have you listened to their words?" Obinna asked. "I have listened," the chief said. "What did your heart say?" "My heart said, I am tired. My heart said, I have been chief for 23 years, and there has never been a year like this one. My heart said, the cave does not belong to us. My heart said, the stranger who put the gold there had a reason, and we do not understand the reason yet." Obinna nodded. "The old man told me that the gold was placed there for someone. It was not placed there for us. We were the second guests, not the owners. The cave was generous enough to show us a lesson, not to let us take what was not ours. The lesson was simple. Wealth changes hands, but character does not. We came back with character. We came back without villages divided by blood. The cave did the right thing with us. And Chima? The chief asked. Chima is my brother. He will be my brother when the moon is full. And when the moon is dark, the shadow he carries is heavy. If he walks alone, the shadow will eat him. If we walk with him, the shadow will shrink. The chief stood up. Walk with him then, but walk carefully. The shadow is not just inside your friend. The shadow is inside the village. Within a year, Ekenne had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Obinna had quietly started a small saving circle, the first of its kind in the village. He had brought together the widows, the young mothers, and the older unmarried women, and asked them to trust him with small amounts each week. He did not take a single coin for himself. He counted every coin in front of them. He wrote the count in a small notebook. He paid the school fees of girls whose mothers could not afford them. He bought medicine for sick mothers who were afraid to go to the town clinic. He moved slowly. He never wore new clothes. He never refused to work in the fields. He walked barefoot to the stream every morning. Chima began a very different path. He returned the bars of gold to the old place where they had first taken them from the cave, even though the chamber was empty now. He did this at night by himself. He told no one. He wanted to put the gold back into the ground as a kind of small prayer, as an act of letting go of a weight he could not forgive himself for carrying. He also married the chief's second daughter, the one who had been sick and whose bride price he had stolen. The chief agreed because Chima had returned every coin of the bride price, and because Chima's family had agreed to replace the bars of gold with 5 sacks of rice that would be shared across 10 compounds during the next planting season. The chief's daughter was gentle and quiet, and she spent her mornings helping Obinna's sister grind pepper and fetch water from the shared well. Adeze did not get married at 15. She did not get married the following year either. When she reached 17, she had finished primary school and was about to start secondary school in the town, a full day's walk away. Obinna paid her first term's fees from the small saving circle. The second term, the village council paid her fees from a new committee Obinna had helped create. Her uncle, Emeka, would say to anyone who visited, "My daughter of my brother is raised in the same compound where she was born. She will choose her own husband when she is ready, and the man will come to ask, not me to beg." Chima and Obinna did not become friends the way they had been. They could not. The shadow of what had happened was always between them, the way a tree fallen across a river never allows the water to flow gently again. But they spoke when they met at the stream. They worked side by side during planting season. They drank palm wine together once in 3 months, sitting on the bench outside Obinna's compound, saying nothing, looking at the same moon. One night, after their children had grown and the village had changed twice over, Chima turned to Obinna and said softly, "I have never asked you a question, brother. I have carried it like a stone. I want to ask it now." "Ask," Obinna said. "If you had refused to speak the truth that day under the silk cotton tree, what would have happened to me?" "I do not know," Obinna said. "You would still be carrying the shadow. You would still be hiding gold under the kitchen floor. You would still be buying the love of the village with stolen sunlight. So I would have become something else. We both would have become something else. The village would have learned that the quiet man was lying and that the loud man was telling the truth. Everything would have shifted toward the kind of man who makes more noise than the kind of man who makes more sense. That is the kind of village that dies from the inside while smiling on the outside." Chima was quiet. Then he said, You lost more than I did that day. You lost the friend you had when we were 7, the one who saved you from the river. He is not the same as the one sitting beside you now. He is not, Obinna said. But he is still your brother, and I will still sit with you when the moon is bright. The cave, brother, did it teach you something you have not told the village? It taught me that gold never stays where the love of gold is. The gold looked for clean eyes. It found one pair of mine and one pair of yours. Yours were not yet clean. Mine were cleaner because I still had people to protect more than I had purchases to make. The gold left because the cave had finished its teaching. It was never for our hands. It was for our hearts. And the old man. The old man was the cave speaking through a different mouth. Or the cave was God speaking through the old man. Or the old man was a dream I had while I was awake. I do not know which one. I do not need to know. What I know is that the cave was honest with us, even when we were not honest with each other. Do you think the bars of gold I returned to the mountain are still there? I think they are in a place where no eye can see them. I think they will wait for the next 2 people who stumble onto that path. I think those 2 people will be tested the same way. I hope one of them will be a sister of yours. Chima smiled for the first time in many years. They finished the palm wine. They went to their homes. They did not speak of the cave again. Years later, after the chief had died, and a younger man had taken the stool, after the rain had come and gone so many times that no one could count, Adeze returned from her secondary school with a small certificate and a small bag of books. She had learned to read, to write, to make simple accounts. She had passed her exams with the second highest mark in her class. She had walked back across the river. She had almost been sold across years earlier. When she entered the village, the children ran around her. The mothers came out to the path. The elders stood at the door of their huts. Adeze walked to Obinna's compound first, knelt before her uncle, and then walked to the bench where her brother was sitting. She sat beside him. She did not speak for a long time. Then she said, "Bianca, where is the cave?" "Why do you want to know?" "Because I have heard the story. Because women in this village do not know what is inside the mountain. Because the men know. Because the men are entering it in secret when their eyes are dirty. Because it is time for a woman to walk into the cave and decide what the village should do with what is left, if anything is left at all. You do not need to go into the mountain, Adeze. I do. We are 50 years past the time of this village. We have a school now. We have a small clinic. We have a saving circle that has grown into a real bank. We have barrels of water and a new roof on the market house. But we still do not have roads. We still do not have a proper school building. We still do not have a working maternity clinic. If the cave still has anything that the village can use, it should not be carried out by 2 young men with dirty hands. It should be carried out by the village as a whole. The cave is empty now, sister. Then there is no gold left, no gold for our eyes. The gold that can be seen is gone. So what remains? What remains is the truth. The mountain is still there. The path is still there. The stones are still in their place behind the black stream. We will walk to the cave as a village next year. We will walk in together. If the gold returns, it will return to our whole hands. If it does not return, we will pour palm oil on the mouth of the mountain and close the story for the next generation. Adeze smiled. Then the gold was never the treasure, brother. The mountain was the treasure. The path to the mountain was the treasure. The choice we made when we reached the mountain was the treasure. The truth we told to each other when we came back down was the treasure. The school that was built because two young men returned to the village with gold in one hand and a story in the other was the treasure. The village that did not sell its daughters because two young men chose to speak the truth under a tree was the treasure. Obinna was silent for a long time. Yes, sister, you have understood what took me 50 years to say. I learned it at the school your saving circle paid for, brother. That is where the answers live. And on a clear morning during the planting season, with the whole village gathered behind them, Obinna, Chima, and Adeze walked together to the cave. They moved the 3 stones in the proper order. They stepped in as a family of 3. The chamber was small. The wet floor was the only floor. The cold air was the same cold air. There was no glow. There were no bags. There were no bars. There was nothing in the cave that the village could carry out in 10 pairs of hands. But the walls had a new thing written on them. Words carved into the stone by someone long ago, or by someone who would come later. None of the 3 could tell. The words read, "Those who bring clean hands will leave with clean eyes. Those who bring dirty hands will leave with their own shadows. The treasure is carried in the chest of the giver, not in the bag of the receiver." Obinna looked at Chima. Chima looked at Adeze. Adeze looked at the cave. "We did not come for the gold," she said. "We came for the answer." "The answer is already inside us," Obinna said. "It was always inside us. The cave simply reminded us what we already knew." They walked out of the cave together. The stones went back into their place. The breath of cold air disappeared. The stream sounded the same. The village was waiting under the silk cotton tree. They told the village what they had seen. There was no gold. There were no bars. There was only a small chamber of dark stone and a single sentence carved into the wall. The village chief stood up. "What do we do with this?" We remember it. Obinna said, "We tell our children the story of the hidden cave of gold. We tell them that the cave was not a place of gold. It was a place of choosing. We tell them that gold does not change a good man into a bad man. Gold shows the truth that was already inside the man who picked it up. We tell them that the price of gold is not paid in coins. It is paid in the friends we lose, the family we break, and the daughter we are willing to sell for the sake of a roof. We tell them that walking into the mountain with clean hands is the same as walking out with clean hands, even if you leave with nothing in your bag." The chief nodded. "And the cave. We let the cave rest. We pour palm oil on the mouth of the secret that the mountain carried for 100 years. We leave the stones as they are. The mountain is not a bank. The mountain is a mirror. We have looked into it once. We do not need to look again." The villagers went home. That night, 2 women saved their first coin in the village saving circle. The next night, 4 more women joined. By the end of the next week, the saving circle was full. By the end of the next year, the saving circle had built a small structure at the edge of the village where the mothers could grind pepper, wash clothes, and watch their children while learning to read. Chima died quietly in his sleep at the age of 72, on a night when the moon was the same shape as the moon had been when the two young men first walked into the cave. His wife wrapped his body in a new cloth. Adeze sang the songs of the village. Obinna sat by the doorway and told his brother's grandchildren the story of the hidden cave of gold. You knew the cave, grandfather, and you did not take the gold. I carried the gold in my chest. I still carry a little of it. That is the only gold that does not leave you when the night is dark. The grandchild smiled. Will I see the cave? You will see it when your eyes are clean. That is the only ticket inside. And the story of the hidden cave of gold passed from one mouth to another in Ekenne, not as a tale of treasure, but as a reminder that the mountain will always test the ones who approach it. And the only wealth that cannot be stolen from a person is the wealth they have chosen to become. If this story stayed with you till the end, drop a like and tap subscribe so more African stories like this keep flowing your way. Share it with one person who needs to hear it tonight.